This is your daughter. I've spared you from the responsibility for years. It's your turn now to take care of her." A young man named Kojo began his journey of national service. It was a time of dusty roads, bright stars, and endless dreams. During his service, he met a woman named Ifia, who was full of laughter and warmth, and in her presence, Kojo felt alive in a way he never had before. They spent their days in happiness, falling deeply in love, and when Ifia moved in with him, their small home was filled with the sounds of shared dreams and whispered promises. But when Kojo's service ended, his life called him away. With the parting words they couldn't say aloud, he left Ifia behind and returned to his family. They promised to find their way back to each other one day. But life's rivers have ways of shifting paths. Years passed, and they fell out of touch, each lost to the currents of their own lives. For years later, Ifia reappeared. She called Kojo to meet her in town, and he was surprised to find her holding the hand of a small girl with eyes that seemed to know more than they should. When he asked about the girl, Ifia only said, "Let's get home, Kojo." It's a long story. At his family home, he served her food and drink, just as a proper host would. When they were alone, Ifia took a deep breath and said, "This is your daughter." Kojo felt his heart stutter. Was it true? The girl was already asleep on his bed, looking peaceful and small. He forced a laugh, saying, "If this is a joke, try again." "It isn't funny." But Ifia didn't laugh. Her face was set with a heavy seriousness. "I've spared you from the responsibility for years, Kojo. It's your turn now." Kojo's parents spoke up, his mother pleading with Ifia to take the little girl back with her. As her father, Kojo had no job and no way to support a child. But Ifia wouldn't listen. She turned, left the house, and began to run, faster and faster, until she disappeared into the shadows. Days passed, and Kojo searched for Ifia. He returned to the town where he'd served, asked her neighbors, pleaded with her parents. But they only said that she'd vanished without warning, and they knew nothing of her whereabouts. With a sigh and a heavy heart, Kojo returned home, to the little girl who was now his responsibility. He didn't know if he was ready to be a father, especially without a job. But he knew he loved her, and he would learn with the love and support he got from his own family. They called the girl Abina, and she grew up under Kojo's care. His parents helped as much as they could, pulling their modest resources to give her a simple but full life. Years passed, and Kojo found himself in quiet wonder at the small life he and Abina shared. She called him Daddy, sometimes slipping into using his real name, and each time she did, it tugged at his heart. Every October 11th, Kojo celebrated her birthday, on the same day as his own. They would slice a small cake, just the two of them, and he would watch the happiness in her face, feeling as if he'd been given a second chance at a family. In the years that followed, Kojo finally found a job, moving with Abina to a small place of their own. He still thought of Ifia, wondered where she was, but in the joy of raising Abina, he began to feel that her absence was a blessing in disguise. Then, after a long period of time, a woman appeared at his parents' doorstep. Thin and tired, looking as if the weight of 1,000 lives was upon her, Ifia had returned. She begged Kojo's mother to see Abina, to know how her daughter was. Out of anger, Kojo's mother lied and said that Kojo had left the country, taking Abina with him, and Ifia left without further question. Another year passed, and then Ifia returned again, finding Kojo and Abina's new home. She was frail, weaker even than before. She looked at Abina with eyes full of longing and sadness, and Kojo's anger boiled over. "What could you possibly want now?" he demanded. "The time for that is over. When I begged you to stay, you ran. And now you want her back? Tell me, is this some joke?" But Ifia only whispered, "I'm not the one looking for her, Kojo. Her real father is coming for her. Kojo blinked, unable to understand. Another man? What kind of game was this? As if to prove Ifia right, days later, a man called Kojo, claiming to be Abina's father. He demanded to know where his daughter was and threatened to come and take her back. Kojo's heart pounded as they argued on the phone. But deep down, a new fear clawed at his heart. Was it true? Could Abina really belong to another man? Finally, Kojo resolved to know the truth. He arranged for a DNA test, the fear of the answer weighing on him as he awaited the results. When the answer came, it hit him with the force of a river breaking its banks. He was not Abina's father. Kojo sat alone that night, his heart shattered. How could he tell his parents, the people who had helped him raise this child with every ounce of love they had? How could he look into Abina's eyes and tell her that he wasn't her father, that all these years had been based on a lie? As shame crept over him, he felt the weight of this truth pressing him down, burying him in sorrow. That night, Abina sensed his sadness. She looked up at him and asked, "Dad, why are you so sad?" Kojo couldn't bring himself to answer. He simply placed his hand over hers, silently making a decision that would shape the rest of his life. The next day, Kojo gathered his family. With Abina at his side, he told them everything. "I've learned a truth that pains me to my core," he said, his voice wavering. "Abina is not my daughter by blood, but blood is not what makes a family. The love, sacrifice, and the years we've shared make her my daughter. I've chosen her every day since she first slept on my bed, and I will continue to choose her as long as I live." The crowd murmured, but there was no judgment, only respect. Abina looked up at him with wide eyes, the kind of love only a child can give, unconditional and pure. She squeezed his hand and whispered, "I love you, Dad." At that moment, Kojo knew he had found his true family. As for the man who claimed to be her father, and even Ifia, they faded away, their claims holding no power over the bond that Kojo and Abina had forged. Kojo continued raising Abina with all the love he had, teaching her that family is not bound by blood, but by the strength of the heart. The moral of the story teaches that true parenthood is about choosing to stay, to nurture, and to protect, even when the bond is tested by doubt. Sometimes, the family we build by choice is the strongest of all because it is rooted in the love and loyalty that withstands life's trials. In the end, what makes us family is not where we come from, but the willingness to stand by each other, no matter what happens. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the story. See you in the next one.